Josh would take our rig into the wildest places. Hey friend, you might not know this about us, but for 4 years with 4 kids, we traveled full time.
Yeah, it was a wild season and a lot of fun and a really kind of unexpected one. When you came to me and said, hey, hear me out.
Hear me out. I had to preface it.
I know, I was a bit nervous.
Retrospectively, we know it was God. Like we know it had to be God, but in my prayer time, it wasn't like God said, this is what I want you to do.
And it has been beautiful what the Lord has had in the box for our family, for each of the members of our family, and the community that we have found. Just been super sweet.
So today, just wanted to share a little bit about some of the lessons we learned along the way and why we decided to settle down in Montana. So what would you say was the best part of traveling full time?
Oh man. So I'm pretty partial to beautiful weather and beautiful scenes. And so getting to live in really beautiful places and have beautiful weather all the time for 4 years. That's pretty great.
Guys, I should tell you, I don't know if this is snitching or exposing or...
What are we going to say here?
Josh would take our rig into the wildest places, like places our rig never should have been. He was like, but we can get a beautiful view. And I don't even think we ever popped a tire.
No.
Like
I know what I'm doing.
Some of it was, spotters, navigating, but man, probably when I think of the most beautiful view that we ever stayed at, I think of that like switchback that we went up across from the Grand Tetons you pulled that Airstream up, put us right on that little corner. That was really special.
Yeah, gosh, that was a beautiful spot. Yeah, nothing like being on the mountain just across from the Grand Tetons, looking across the valley in the morning and watching the sunset back behind the Grand Tetons.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, it was a wild season and a lot of fun and a really kind of unexpected one. Like my wife
yes,
grew up her whole life on the same piece of land in a little cornfield in Illinois, and just super steady. Dad worked as a dairyman.
It was always my vision to have like a piece of property and a cute house where all of the kids would come, where they would come with all of their kids. This really was a wild surprise in the middle of that.
Yeah. And so when you came to me and said, hey, hear me out.
Hear me out. I had to preface it.
I know. I was a bit nervous. I don't know if your spouse has ever come to you and been like, hey, like, hear me out. And I'm like, oh boy, what is this going to be? We're like, hey, I think we should move into an RV and travel about the country, opening offices of the practice.
Which is so interesting, right? Like retrospectively, we know it was God. Like we know it had to be God. But in my prayer time, it wasn't like God said, this is what I want you to do. It was just this gentle excitement in my heart about something. And often that is how he works in my life. He doesn't necessarily tell me directly, but he gives me this joy and this enthusiasm about something.
Yeah. A lot of times he gets up in my grill and is just like more direct, and that's helpful to me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a direct person. And so when I hear from the Lord and the Lord is clear, I want you to do this or do that, then I do it, and we've been like that. Lots of things in our story where, the Lord asks us to do hard things or weird things or different things. And once we have clarity that that's what the Lord wants us to do, we just do it. And yeah, this wasn't any different. The interesting thing, just common to how the Lord works, is, for 6 months prior to that conversation, so that happened in like late June that we had that conversation, you came to me and said that since that January, the Lord had been putting in my heart that there was travel that was for work that was upcoming. And that was actually a really scary thing because 18 months prior to that, we had just come out of a season where I was traveling all the time and was gone a lot. And it was hard for our marriage. It was hard for our family.
It was a hard season.
Probably one of the hardest seasons of our marriage. And so we were just kind of like coming out of the other side of that and feeling like we were getting our feet underneath us and setting rhythms and stuff. And so when I felt like the Lord was putting in my heart that I would be traveling for work again, I just literally was like, man, I do not even know how to have that conversation with Cassie. Like, yeah, I know you don't want us to go back to the way things were when I was traveling a lot before, but I don't know what it even looks like for me to be traveling a lot for work, but it not be like it was before.
Yeah.
And so, Lord, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but you've got to show us how to do it differently than it was before, because I have no vision for what that could look like and not be what it was before. And I really need you to talk to Cassie about it, because I don't even know how to approach her and say, I think I'm going to be traveling for work again. So I just asked the Lord to talk to Cassie and to show us how to do what it is he was putting in my heart for us to do and have it not be a bad thing for our family. So I've been sitting on that for 6 months, which is really weird for us.
Yeah.
Like with the Lord speaking something to my heart, the Lord speaking something to your heart, like we talk about it.
Yeah, it's quick.
Yeah, we talk about it, like as soon as we see each other again. Mm-hmm. It's not typical that something be in our heart for any long period of time and we wouldn't talk about it. But this was one of the few things that's ever been the case. So when you came to me, I can see where we were at in our kitchen in Colorado, and you're like, "Hey, gotta talk to you about a thing now. Hear me out." I was like, "Oh Jesus, what is this going to be about?" And then you said, "Hey, I think we should sell everything, buy an RV, travel about the country." My first response was like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, who are you in the first place? This is not a thing my wife would ever propose." It is so...
I've been taken over by aliens. It's like Men in Black, where that bug is wearing that guy's body as a suit.
Yeah, I definitely thought you were ill or something was wrong with you. Like, it just took me completely by surprise, because it's just not anything I would ever expect to come out of your mouth. And then I was like, practically, my brain goes to logistics and all the things. I'm like, we got 4 young kids still at home. Like, you're going to homeschool them on the road? You're going to lose your flipping mind. Like, that's going to be a terrible idea.
That kind of happened.
It did kind of happen. But it was like, this is like just practically makes no sense. And coming from you, it really makes no sense. Like,
I know people were always like, how did you talk Cassie into that?
Yeah, people think I talk Cassie into it. Yeah, they're like, hey, I kind of want to do this adventurous thing. I've got to talk my wife into it. How did you talk your wife into it? Like, I did not talk my wife into it.
Here's what you need to do. Have a really hard experience. And so you can't talk to your wife about that. And you have to ask God to talk to your wife instead. That's the strap.
Yeah, I mean, because doing something wild and crazy, like that's more of an MO for me, something that's, you would expect and people would expect from me. But not Cassie's way of operating in life. But it didn't take very long. Like it was in that same conversation, and that, as we're back and forth and I'm going, this is a bad idea. This is,
Like I just told somebody in therapy that this would not be a good strategy.
I know. Through my years of being a marriage therapist, there were, I've had multiple times where it's almost always husbands. I've never had it be a wife's idea, but where husbands will have this genius idea that they're going to save money while building a house. So they're going to buy a piece of land, put a mobile home on it, or put an RV and live in the RV while the house is under construction, save rent. And they're like, yeah, it's going to save money, and it's only going to be 3 months, and it's all going to work out well. And then like 9 months later, construction still isn't finished, winter set in, and they're talking divorce. And they're in my office as a marriage therapist. And so, I would joke and say, hey, you want to get divorced, move into an RV with your family, and you're
like, oh, shoot.
Like, yeah. And so it was like a thing that I would, joke about. And so to suddenly be like, I'm going to move my whole family with young kids into an RV, like, this is nutsy. But in that same conversation, the Holy Spirit pricked in my heart and brought back to my remembrance, like, remember, you asked me to talk to her and to show the way that this was going to work. And I was just like, I got quiet for a moment. And I was just like, I got to tell you something.
You were like, that was an unexpected outcome of
that
question.
That was not the response that I was expecting. But I was like, I got to tell you something. I've been sitting on this for 6 months, and maybe this is that. And we just knew it. We just kind of knew it.
Yeah, it just feels settled in your spirit. Settled in your bones. You're like, okay, this is going to be a lot of work. This is going to be really new, and it's right.
Yeah. And man, like I said, we're yes men when it comes to the Lord. Once we have clarity and feel like we know what the Lord wants us to do, we don't waste any time in getting after it. And that was the end of June. I guess he'd gotten back from a trip in Missouri visiting family, and a couple of weeks later, we put an order in. This was the fall of 2019. Put an order in for an Airstream travel trailer and started selling and liquidating all of our stuff. So we had felt like we weren't supposed to store it, and we weren't supposed to, we had no idea how long that season would go. It wasn't like the Lord was like, do this for 4 years or do this for 1 year, or we had no knowledge or awareness of how long that season would be. But we didn't feel like we were supposed to store stuff or have some kind of fixed time frame. So we just sold everything, ordered an Airstream. It came in 12 weeks later. They built it. We picked it up, and a couple of weeks after that, we hit the road. And if you're doing the math on that, because a lot of times folks will be like, oh, so you were a COVID kind of RV, you did the COVID RV thing. And it's like, we did, but we actually started prior to COVID. Like you didn't know in the fall of 2019 that COVID was coming and that was going to be a thing. And we thought we were going to go open offices of the company, brick and mortar places. At the time, we had brick and mortar offices and saw clients in person and online. And we thought that is what the future for the ministry that we were leading was going to be, and had opened offices in other cities. And we opened a couple more, and we were in Florida and Orlando, opening an office of the practice when COVID hit. And that was a really scary and wild time, because we had, years earlier in 2017 had launched My Counselor Online, the online practice that we lead. It's the same company that we founded 20 years ago, but we rebranded and launched the online platform, My Counselor Online. And at the time, 2017, people thought that was just nutsy. Like, who wants to do online counseling?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Does it even work?
Does it even work? But we just really felt like there was a lot of people that didn't have access to care, and especially pastors and missionaries around the country, around the world, that had limited access to care in their corners of the world. And we were supposed to learn how to provide excellent care to them in an online context. And so we're already, practicing and developed NIC. Wasn't called NIC at that point in time, but we were doing it in person. And then, we started learning how to do that online and opening brick and mortar offices where we did both online and in person. And then COVID, and all counseling around the world went online overnight. And all my friends in the Christian counseling world, many of which had kind of been like, I don't know about this online counseling you're doing, Josh. It seems a little nutsy. I don't know why anybody would want to do that. We're blowing up my phone going, hey, how do we do this? How do we get online?
By Monday.
By Monday, because there's a stay-at-home order going in place. And we were able to help a lot of other Christian counseling practices because we had been doing it for a few years already, and kind of worked out some of the kinks and knew some of the best practices. And so God positioned us to help other counseling ministries, and for us to be able to serve people that suddenly were very isolated and had limited access to care. And so we were growing rapidly and trying to figure out how to navigate growth as an organization. Well, at the same time, we had just opened all these brick and mortar offices that were now closed.
Yes.
And so it's like now we're paying rent on empty offices, and it was wild and bizarre. And suddenly the purpose for which we were traveling full time to go open brick and mortar offices, we're not going to open brick and mortar offices in COVID when nobody can come in person. And so it's like, Lord, what are you doing? Like, we thought it was going to be one thing, but it turned out to be something very different.
No, and you know what? That's par for the course when you obey the Lord. I just have to say, like, you think it's going to be this, and then he's like, yes, that got you in the door. And now we're going to do these other things. Surprise!
It's like a bait and switch.
It's like a bait and switch.
Yeah. He does that a lot.
A lot.
Like, I've just experienced that. And you see it in the scriptures at times. I think one of the most stark examples of that is you look at Abraham and Isaac, right? And you see God tell Abraham to take Isaac up on the mount and to sacrifice him, right? And from Abraham's perspective, this is where this road goes.
Yeah. And
God isn't unclear about what's going to happen and what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
He knows it with certainty that, and the Lord has been explicit about what he's to do. And so he walks that out in obedience, but in reality, God never actually intended for what he told Abraham to do to come to pass. Which is a weird thing, kind of like, oh,
yeah,
God told him one thing, but that thing wasn't actually supposed to come to pass the way that he instructed it, that God had a different plan in place, and it was a better plan, but it required faith and obedience to the apparent plan on the face of it. And I've just experienced that a lot in my walk where the Lord says, do this. And I think I'm smart. And so I kind of lift my head up and look down the road.
You're like, oh, I see
Like,
what
I
you
see where this
know.
road is
Yeah.
going. I see where this path is leading.
Mhm.
And only for there to be just over the top of this hill, a hard left
Yes.
that goes like, oh, it's actually not gonna go where it is I thought that this was gonna go.
Uh-huh.
And that was definitely the case with the traveling full-time thing. We were 6 months in, something like that. It was March.
4
Yeah.
months in, 5
November,
months.
November to March.
Yeah.
And the game plan changed immediately.
Yeah. All facets of the game plan changed.
Yeah. And we're like, so do we settle down? Do we go rent a place? Do we buy a house? Do we keep going with this traveling thing? Like, it was all up in the air and so much uncertainty.
Mhm. Yeah. But we ended up keeping going. We ended up keeping traveling full time for 4 years, and we loved it.
Yeah.
We loved visiting all the places and seeing the country and getting to experience places we've only read about and to take our kids there. And honestly, for most of it, I was so overstimulated just by being with 4 children much of the time. And they were so overstimulated that a lot of it was just going and seeing and not really like in my vision for how it was going to go. We were going to go to all these cities and we were going to do so many things. Like I was just going to show them the world and delight them. And yeah, by the time we got to those cities, we were like, if we can just get our schoolwork done, we'll call it a win for life. Which is, it's interesting because I actually felt like the reason that we were supposed to travel, like opening offices of the practice made sense to me. And that's how I pitched it to you. To me, my heart was to have these adventures with our kids, to have these special connections. And I think I didn't really realize that children are children and like they couldn't really be my friends and do all these fun adulting things with me. Their little nervous systems, one of them maybe was wired for that. And one of them definitely was not wired for that.
It was a very different experience, for both of us in terms of what we thought we were doing. There were adventures. We had lots of adventures, but it didn't look like thought it would.
Yes.
And we did do a whole lot in the growing of the ministry and, connecting with different organizations that we still support and provide care to their folks. And the Lord worked through all of those things, but it looked very different than we imagined that it would look like going into it.
Yeah.
For sure. And, people sometimes, when you think about traveling full time, like in our context, it's not full-time vacation. Sometimes folks imagine it as like full-time vacation. But, we worked full-time. You homeschooled kiddos during the day. I, during the day, went and, oftentimes from a remote office or, a shared co-working type space, would go to the office and work a regular work schedule and then come back home.
Yes.
And so it was more like living and working everyday life, just in different locations and different places. Sometimes in the middle of national forests.
Yes.
And sometimes on the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes in the mountains.
You always, like wherever we stayed, had to have at least within 1 hour access of a driving place where you could go see your clients privately.
Or airports to kind of travel and out from. And
yes.
Yep.
So that was always a big piece of the process for us. I think one of the best things that came out of traveling full time was the forced proximity between you and I. which ended up bringing some things to the surface that we had been able to navigate life without bringing them to the surface as much. But because of the forced proximity, it brought things to a head in a way that we realized we need some outside help.
Yeah.
And so it brought us to the season where we ended up starting marriage counseling, which was a huge game changer for us.
COVID did that for a lot of folks, and that where just the forced proximity of not being able to, working from home, homeschooling, not having the other distractions from life, but having forced, there was a lot of issues, and people would ask us as counselors, are you seeing more issues? And we were seeing more issues, but a lot of what we were seeing were not new issues. They were issues that were being brought to a head and intensified because of the circumstances, which actually created opportunity.
Yes.
It is not always a bad thing when things come to a head. That sometimes we can live in a place, in a state where we're not really thriving, we're not really happy, we're not, living from our true self, we're not experiencing the abundant life that Jesus has for us, but it's not bad enough to force us to do something different.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, see, as a counselor, there's a gift in when things get bad enough that it forces us to do something different. And that definitely was the case for us, that there were some things in our relationship and our communication that were not so bad that it forced us to do the inconvenient things of getting help and reaching out then, and we were able to just kind of keep things moving along. But the stressors of living in an Airstream, having 4 kiddos, all of the different components of that really brought stuff to a head in a way that it forced us to then get help. And that help then really transformed and changed some things, helped me mature, helped you mature, helped us grow in our relationship. And on the other side of that, doing the hard work, we matured. We matured more into our true self, and we experienced more the fullness of life that God wanted for us. And it was, it's great. It's a huge blessing to us. Would never want to go back to the way things were before that, even if we could avoid that season of tension where it was more intense. And I think sometimes that perspective can be super helpful. Like when people find themselves in an intense season, it's natural to be like, I just want to take the pressure off.
Yeah, I want to get away.
Just want to get away from the season. How do we just kind of make things a little bit better? But if we have the wisdom to see the opportunity in it and lean into it as maybe a gift from the Lord, because he's wanting to invite us into something more and better, that, there can be a life-giving, transformational part of your story just around the corner if you take that opportunity and step into it.
Yeah. We made a lot of friends along the road. You made a lot of friends.
I had a lot of friends around the country and made a lot of friends while traveling about the country, because I got out a lot more.
Right.
Like you were at home.
I was at home
kiddos.
with the kids, making sure they were taken care of. But also then I was too exhausted to do anything else.
Yeah.
To go out and make friends. And like it was just an awkward, difficult thing. You go to a new city, who are you going to talk to?
Yeah. We connected with local churches in every city that we went to and attended and served. And, and so we made kind of the early kinds of connections and friendships. And we were as intentional as we could be about, meeting people when we went to say, hey, this is our story. We would love to make some connections and meet some people while we were here. So we were proactive in kind of not sitting back and waiting for things to come, but we knew we were only going to be in an area for 1 to 3 months. And so we didn't have any time to waste if we were going to cultivate any community. But it was exceedingly difficult to do under those circumstances.
It just felt, the felt sense of it felt impossible to me and to our kids.
Yeah.
We had one kiddo that made good friends online, is still friends online with a lot of them, but the other three, they just needed, and actually they have come to us when we decided to settle in Montana. One of our daughters really struggled to make friends for a while because she's like, I'm just used to when I get somewhere, then I connect with somebody and then feels like they're ripped away from me. And so that's what her nervous system had learned to expect.
Yeah.
And that was really hard and painful and sad. And actually, that is the biggest reason we decided to get off the road, was for the sake of continuity in relationships.
It really is. Like, there's trade-offs in everything in life, right? Like, there's really good things that came from our season of traveling. And we spent 2 years in an Airstream RVing around the country, and then we sold our rig and began staying in Airbnbs. And we lived in Mexico and Costa Rica and Europe for a little while. And we traveled around the U.S. for another 2 years that we were in that travel season. But then, our kids came back from camp here and said, hey.
And it's actually the sweetest, because while they were at camp, like, I can envision us sitting in a hotel room and, we're talking about the health of our kids. We're having this conversation about intentionality. Like, what has this season been like? What do we want for our kids? What do we want for our family in this next season? Their summer camp time was kind of like a reset and a vision casting for us. And so we're sitting there in a hotel room and I'm like, maybe we need to get a travel trailer, like a little thing to hook up to my van and pull behind my van so that we can have room for like their hobbies and other things, because there wasn't a lot of room for that sort of thing in our Airstream and adventure van that we were currently. No, I think at that point we were just like, we are just traveling around. We have these 2 vehicles, and what else, like, we're just going from house to house. They need to keep exploring. Like, they were to the age, they need to keep growing. And so finally that started a conversation that led to, I think it's time to settle down. Like, I think it's time to not help them get more hobbies, but help them have community. And so we picked them up from camp. And the part that's really sweet to me is that 3 of the 4 of them, after they got home from camp, were just like, we want continuity of relationships. We are looking for that. Could you consider us stopping traveling? And we had already made the decision that that's what we were going to do. And it was just, the sovereignty of the Lord and his goodness to move on all the hearts, just like how we got started in the journey, moving on the hearts and bringing unity. And so that was one of the sweetest things when we didn't tell them right away because we wanted to have a strategy. We wanted to have a place. And so, yeah, that's, in a nutshell, how we ended up in Montana in a super sweet community with some friends that we already had, that we had a great friendship with, and just excited to be able to establish some relationships that have been really sweet and really special. The things that, there are the things that you think are going to be one way, but they're another way. And there have definitely been some things about moving here that are like that. But the sweet friendships that we thought were going to develop have been realized. And that feels really precious, both for us as a couple and for our family.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stand out to me about that transition was, I did not want to move to Montana. Like Montana wasn't even on my radar as one of the places to consider. Like we've been to lots of beautiful places. We could, settle down anywhere in the world that we wanted to.
70 degrees. It was hard to imagine Montana winters taking up 5 months of our good year.
Yeah. So, I didn't want to move to Montana. Then I was like,
No, you were outspoken about that.
Yeah, I was pretty outspoken about that. That was not something that was, something I was even considering. But it's something that you had on your heart, that we had come through here and something had touched you when we were here. And so you thought we should consider it. And the way I operate, the way we operate is when something's in either of our hearts, we pray about it. We make it a matter of prayer and we go to the Lord and we trust Him to help us get on the same page about things. And this is one of those examples. And I remember praying and talking to the Lord about this and saying, hey, I know you don't want us to move to Montana. But you know the drill. I got to pray about these things and come humbly and be willing to, do the thing. And so just for the record, so I can check this box that I've prayed about it and know that that's not what we're supposed to do. Do you want me to move to Montana? Waiting for the no. And the Lord's like, move to Montana. I'm like, what?
You're like, I must have misheard
What?
you.
No, I didn't mishear. It was clear. And then move to Montana. I know it's a package you wouldn't choose, but you're going to like what I have inside for you. I was like, okay. I hear the word of the Lord and move to Montana. All right, Lord. And as has been the case throughout our story, once we have clarity and know what the Lord wants us to do, it was just months later, and all the pieces came together, and we landed in the community that we're in and the house that we're in, and it has been beautiful what the Lord has had in the box for our family, for each of the members of our family, and the community that we have found. Just been super sweet. And it's exactly what was needed and missing during our 4 years of travel. And has just been a super sweet season. Some obedience, kind of following the Lord when He directs. Sometimes it's crazy, leave everything, go travel around. Sometimes it's settle down in a place that you don't think you want to. But he really does know what's best, and He really does have good in His heart towards us and for us, and we can trust that.